Look at me. Right now, in this moment, I need you to understand something that's going to separate you from 99% of the population. The world is designed to make you quit. Society is engineered to break you down, to make you submit, to turn you into another compliant, mediocre person who accepts defeat as normal. Every system, every institution, every comfortable lie you've been told is meant to make you surrender. And most people do. They wave the white flag at the first sign of difficulty. They tap out when things get uncomfortable. They quit and then spend the rest of their lives justifying why they had no choice. But you're not most people. You can't be. Because once you understand what I'm about to tell you, you'll realize that surrender is the only true failure in this life. Let me tell you something about quitting that nobody wants to admit. Quitting is a habit. It's not a one-time decision. It's a pattern you reinforce every single time you give up. You quit the diet, and it becomes easier to quit the workout routine. You quit the workout routine, and it becomes easier to quit the business. You quit the business, and it becomes easier to quit the relationship. You quit the relationship, and it becomes easier to quit on yourself. Every time you surrender, you're programming your brain to be a quitter. You're literally rewiring your neural pathways to choose the easy way out. And before you know it, quitting becomes your default response to adversity. You become the person who starts strong and finishes weak. The person who talks big but folds under pressure. The person who had potential but never did anything with it. The moment you surrender is the moment you guarantee your own defeat. Right now, you're facing something difficult. Maybe it's your business that's struggling. Maybe it's your body that's out of shape. Maybe it's your relationships that are falling apart. Maybe it's your finances that are in shambles. And you're tired. You're exhausted. You've been fighting for so long, and you're not seeing the results you want. So that voice in your head is telling you to quit. It's telling you that you've tried hard enough. It's telling you that maybe this just isn't for you. It's telling you that surrender would feel so good right now that you could finally relax, finally stop struggling, finally be free from this pressure. But that voice is a liar. That voice is your enemy. That voice is the devil on your shoulder trying to rob you of everything you could become. You want to know what happens when you surrender. You don't find peace. You find regret. You don't find relief. You find shame. You don't find freedom. You find a prison made of all the things you could have been but weren't because you quit. Surrender doesn't end your pain. It multiplies it because now you have to live with the knowledge that you gave up. Now you have to look at yourself in the mirror and see a quitter staring back at you. Now you have to watch other people achieve the goals you abandoned. And that pain, that regret, that shame, it never goes away. It follows you for the rest of your life, whispering in your ear, you could have made it if you had just held on a little longer. Winners and losers face the same obstacles. The only difference is winners refuse to surrender. Every champion you admire wanted to quit. Every billionaire you look up to had moments where they wanted to throw in the towel. Every legend you worship faced circumstances that would have broken a normal person. The difference between them and everyone else isn't that they had it easier. The difference is they never surrendered. When things got hard, they got harder. When the pressure increased, they increased their effort. When everyone told them to quit, they doubled down. They understood something fundamental about life. The universe rewards those who refuse to break. Success doesn't come to the talented. It doesn't come to the lucky. It doesn't come to those with the best circumstances. It comes to those who simply refuse to surrender no matter what. Think about every time you quit something in your past. How do you feel about those decisions now? Do you feel proud? Do you feel accomplished? Or do you feel that knowing sense of regret, that voice asking what could have been if you had just pushed through? Every person reading this right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. You have goals you abandoned, dreams you gave up on, potential you never realized because when things got difficult, you chose comfort over conquest. You chose surrender over success. And now you're living with the consequences of that choice. But here's the good news. You can decide right now that you will never surrender again. You can make the decision that no matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how long it takes, you will not quit. You will not fold. You will not wave the white flag. You will fight until you win or you die trying, and there is no third option. That's not dramatic. That's not extreme. That's what it takes to achieve anything meaningful in this life. The people at the top didn't get there by being reasonable. They didn't get there by knowing when to quit. They got there by being unreasonable, by refusing to accept defeat, by fighting when every logical person would have surrendered. Your dreams are on the other side of your refusal to quit. Right now, you're closer than you think. The breakthrough you're waiting for, the success you're chasing, the life you're dreaming about, it's right there. But you can't see it because you're in the storm, you're in the darkness, you're in the part of the journey where most people quit. And that's exactly why most people never make it. They surrender 3 feet from gold. They quit one day before the miracle. They give up one attempt before the breakthrough. Don't be that person. Don't be the one who looks back in 5 years and realizes you were so close, but you quit too soon. The universe is testing you right now. It's asking you one simple question: are you serious? Are you really committed to your goals, or are you just another person who talks big but quits when things get real? Are you willing to endure the pain, the struggle, the failure, the criticism, the doubt? Are you willing to keep going when you're exhausted, when you're scared, when you're alone, when you have no evidence that it's going to work out? Because that's what it takes. That's the price of success. And most people aren't willing to pay it. Most people would rather surrender and live with regret than fight and risk failure. But not you. You're different. You're reading this because somewhere deep inside you know you're meant for more. You know you have greatness within you. You know you're capable of extraordinary things. But none of that matters if you surrender. Your potential means nothing if you quit. Your dreams are worthless if you don't fight for them. The only thing that matters is whether you're willing to never surrender, no matter what. Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is going to expose the pattern that's been destroying your life, and you haven't even noticed it. Quitting isn't just a decision you make in a moment of weakness. It's not just giving up on one goal when things get hard. Quitting is a virus. It's a disease that spreads through your entire life, infecting every dream you have, every goal you set, every ambition you pursue. And the terrifying part is that most people don't realize they're infected until it's too late, until they become the person who starts everything and finishes nothing, the person who talks about big dreams, but quits the moment reality demands sacrifice. Here's how it works. You start a diet because you want to lose weight, you want to be healthy, you want to look good. For the first week, you're motivated, you're excited, you're committed. But then it gets hard. You're hungry, you're tired. Your friends invite you out for pizza. And in that moment, you make a decision. You tell yourself it's just one cheat meal. You tell yourself you'll get back on track tomorrow. But you don't. You quit. And in that moment of surrender, something happens in your brain that you're not even aware of. You've just programmed yourself. You've just taught your subconscious mind that when things get uncomfortable, when discipline is required, when sacrifice is necessary, you fold. You choose comfort over commitment. But it doesn't stop there. That neural pathway you just created, that pattern you just reinforced, it's now active. It's waiting. And the next time you face difficulty, it activates faster. You start a workout routine because you want to get in shape. You're pumped for the first few days. But then your muscles are sore. You're exhausted from work. It's raining outside. And that same pattern fires. That same voice that convinced you to quit the diet now has a stronger foothold in your mind. It whispers the same lies with more authority. You've done enough. You deserve a break. You can start again Monday. And you listen. You quit again. And now the pattern is even stronger. You launch a business because you want financial freedom. You work hard for a few months, but the clients aren't coming fast enough. The money isn't flowing like you expected. You're stressed. You're scared. You're facing rejection and failure and all the uncomfortable realities that come with building something from nothing. And that voice, that quitting pattern that you've been reinforcing for years, it speaks with absolute authority now. It sounds logical. It sounds reasonable. It tells you that maybe this just isn't for you, that you should cut your losses, that successful people probably had advantages you don't have, and you surrender again. Do you see what's happening? Every quit makes the next quit easier. Every surrender strengthens the neural pathway of giving up. You're literally building the brain of a quitter one decision at a time, One moment of weakness at a time, one surrender at a time. And before you know it, quitting isn't just something you do occasionally. It becomes who you are. It becomes your default response to adversity. The moment things get hard, your brain automatically starts looking for the exit. It starts generating excuses. It starts building the rationalization for why you should give up. And you don't even question it anymore because you've quit so many times that it feels normal. Right now, look at your life honestly. How many things have you started and not finished? How many goals have you set and abandoned? How many times have you told yourself, this time will be different, only to quit when the initial excitement faded and the real work began? Every single one of those quits is still living in your brain. Every single surrender is a brick in the prison you've built for yourself. You're not failing because you lack talent. You're not failing because you lack opportunity. You're failing because you've trained yourself to quit. And now quitting is your automatic response to difficulty. The most dangerous part about this pattern is that it compounds. It gets stronger with every repetition. The person who quit their diet 5 years ago finds it easier to quit their business today. The person who quit the gym last year finds it easier to quit their relationship this year. Quitting in one area of your life bleeds into every other area because your brain doesn't compartmentalize. It generalizes. It takes the patterns you've reinforced and applies them everywhere. You think you're just quitting a workout, but you're actually programming yourself to quit on everything that requires sustained effort and delayed gratification. You've been sold a lie, and it's one of the most destructive lies in human history. You've been told that quitting will bring you peace, that surrender will end your suffering, that if you just let go of the struggle, if you just release the pressure, if you just give up on the difficult goal, you'll finally be able to relax and be happy. But let me destroy that illusion right now because it's keeping you trapped in a cycle of misery. Quitting doesn't end your pain. It doesn't bring relief. It doesn't set you free. Surrender is not the escape route you think it is. It's a trap door that leads to something far worse than the temporary discomfort you're trying to avoid. When you quit, when you wave that white flag and walk away from something you committed to, something happens that nobody warns you about. In that moment, you might feel a brief sense of relief. The pressure is off. The struggle is over. You can go back to your comfortable life, back to your routines, back to not having to push yourself beyond your limits. And for a day, maybe even a week, it feels good. You tell yourself you made the right choice. You rationalize it. You convince yourself that it wasn't meant to be, that you gave it your best shot, that sometimes knowing when to quit is a sign of wisdom. But that feeling doesn't last. It can't last because underneath that thin layer of relief, something else is growing, something dark, something that will haunt you for the rest of your life. Regret doesn't announce itself immediately. It doesn't show up the day you quit and scream in your face. It's subtle. It's patient. It waits, but it's coming. And when it arrives, it brings friends shame, disappointment, and the soul-crushing weight of unfulfilled potential. You'll be sitting in your comfortable life, the life you preserved by quitting, and you'll see someone else achieving the exact goal you abandoned. You'll watch them celebrate their success, living the life you could have had, and something inside you will crack. You'll think about all the times you wanted to quit, but they kept going. You'll realize they weren't more talented than you. They weren't luckier than you. They just refused to surrender when you did. That's when the real pain begins. The pain of knowing you had it in you. The pain of understanding you were capable, but you chose comfort over conquest. The pain of looking in the mirror and seeing not who you are, but who you could have been if you had just held on a little longer. This pain doesn't fade with time. It doesn't get easier. It gets heavier. Every year that passes, every birthday you celebrate, every New Year's Eve when you're forced to reflect on your life, that regret grows. It compounds. It accumulates interest like a debt you can never pay off. You think the struggle you're facing right now is painful. You think the work is hard. You think the sacrifice is too much. Let me tell you something that will change your perspective forever. The temporary pain of pushing through, of fighting, of refusing to quit, that pain has an expiration date. It ends. You either achieve your goal and the struggle becomes a proud memory, or you learn something valuable and move forward stronger. But the pain of surrender, that pain is permanent. That pain follows you into every room you enter. It sits beside you at dinner. It whispers to you when you're trying to sleep. It shows up in moments when you should be happy, but instead you're thinking about what could have been. Right now, in this very moment, you're choosing between two types of pain. You can choose the pain that builds you or the pain that breaks you. You can choose the temporary discomfort of discipline, effort, and persistence, or you can choose the permanent agony of regret, shame, and unfulfilled dreams. Most people choose wrong. They choose surrender because in the moment it seems easier. They trade their future for a few moments of present comfort, and by the time they realize what they've done, it's too late. The opportunity is gone. The moment has passed. And all they're left with is the haunting question, what if? Do you know what that question does to a person? What if I had just kept going? What if I had pushed through the hard part? What if I had believed in myself? What if I had refused to quit? That question is a prison. It's a torture chamber you build for yourself, one quit at a time, one surrender at a time. And the worst part is that you can never answer it. You can never go back. You can never know for certain what would have happened if you had just held on. All you know is that you didn't. All you know is that you quit. And that knowledge, that certainty of your own surrender, it eats away at you slowly, year after year, until you're old and bitter and filled with regrets about all the things you could have done, but didn't because you were too afraid to endure temporary discomfort. You need to understand something could completely change your perspective on the struggle you're facing right now. You're in the hardest part. You're in the darkness. You're in the storm where visibility is zero and every instinct in your body is screaming at you to turn back, to give up, to surrender. And that's exactly why most people quit right here. They quit in the final mile. They surrender 3 feet from gold. They give up one day before the miracle would have happened. And the tragedy is that they never know how close they actually were. They never realized that the breakthrough they were desperately seeking was right there, just beyond the wall of pain they refused to push through. Here's what nobody tells you about success. The darkest moment comes right before the dawn. The hardest part of the journey is always right before the breakthrough. It's not random. It's not coincidence. It's a universal pattern that every champion, every entrepreneur, every person who achieved something significant has experienced. Right before you break through, right before you achieve your goal, right before success becomes inevitable, the universe throws everything it has at you. The obstacles multiply. The setbacks intensify. The doubt becomes overwhelming. It's as if reality itself is testing you one final time, asking you the ultimate question, do you really want this? Or are you just another person who quits when things get real? Think about every story of success you've ever heard. The entrepreneur who was about to lose everything, who was 1 week away from bankruptcy, who was ready to shut down their business, and then suddenly the big client signed. The investor who was on the verge of giving up, who had failed 99 times, and then the 100th investment made them a fortune. The athlete who trained for years without recognition, who faced injury after injury, who was told they weren't good enough, and then suddenly everything clicked and they became a champion. These aren't feel-good stories. These are documentations of a fundamental truth. The breakthrough always comes when you're closest to quitting. Right now, you might be in that exact moment. You might be facing the hardest challenge you've ever faced. You might have tried everything you can think of and nothing is working. You might be exhausted, frustrated, scared, and ready to give up. And that's exactly why you need to understand what's happening. This isn't evidence that you should quit. This is evidence that you're close. This darkness you're experiencing, this overwhelming difficulty, this intense pressure, it's not pushing you away from success. It's the final barrier between you and everything you want. But you can't see that right now because you're in it. You're in the middle of the storm, and all you can see is the chaos around you. Most people quit here. They quit in the darkness because they think darkness means they're on the wrong path. They surrender in the storm because they interpret the difficulty as a sign they should stop. They give up right before the breakthrough because they have no idea how close they actually are. And then, months later or years later, they see someone else achieve the exact goal they abandoned, And they realize with crushing certainty that if they had just held on a little longer, if they had just pushed through that final barrier, they would have made it. But now it's too late. Now they get to live with the knowledge that they quit 3 feet from gold. You want to know the most painful part about quitting right before the breakthrough? You never get closure. You never get to know for certain how close you were. All you have is speculation, regret, and the haunting suspicion that maybe, just maybe, if you had tried one more time, if you had held on one more day, if you had refused to surrender just a little bit longer, everything would have changed. That uncertainty is torture. That not knowing is a weight you carry forever. But here's what you do know: if you quit now, you guarantee that you'll never find out. If you surrender now, you ensure that all the work you've already put in, all the sacrifices you've already made, all the pain you've already endured, it was all for nothing. The breakthrough is always closer than you think. Success is always just beyond the point where most people quit. The universe is testing you right now to see if you're serious, to see if you really want what you say you want, to see if you're willing to endure the darkness without knowing when the light will come. And the only way to pass that test, the only way to reach the breakthrough, the only way to achieve what you set out to achieve is to refuse to quit no matter what. Even when you can't see the path, even when you have no evidence it will work, even when everyone is telling you to give up, you keep going, you keep pushing, you keep fighting, because the moment you're most tempted to quit is the exact moment you're closest to winning. Stop lying to yourself. Stop telling yourself that successful people had it easier, that champions got lucky, that the people living the life you dream about just happened to be in the right place at the right time. That's a comfortable delusion you're using to protect your ego from the brutal truth. The truth is that every person you admire, every champion you look up to, every success story you study, they all faced the exact same obstacles you're facing right now. They dealt with failure. They encountered rejection. They faced moments of crushing doubt. They experienced setbacks that would have destroyed a normal person. The difference between them and you isn't the obstacles they faced. The difference is how they responded when those obstacles appeared. When a champion faces a setback, they don't look for the exit. They don't start generating excuses. They don't question whether they should continue. They analyze what went wrong, they adjust their strategy, and they attack again with even more intensity. When a winner encounters failure, they don't internalize it as evidence they should quit. They interpret it as data, as feedback, as the universe showing them what doesn't work so they can find what does. When a legend faces criticism and doubt from others, they don't let it shake their conviction. They use it as fuel. They turn that negative energy into motivation. They prove the doubters wrong not with words, but with results. You're facing the same obstacles right now. You're experiencing failure. You're hearing criticism. You're dealing with setbacks. The bills are piling up. The results aren't coming as fast as you expected. People are doubting you. Maybe even the people closest to you are suggesting you should give up, get a regular job, be realistic. And in those moments, you have a choice. You can respond like most people do, like 99% of the population does, and use those obstacles as justification for surrender. Or you can respond like a champion and use those obstacles as reasons to fight harder. Here's what separates champions from everyone else. They don't see obstacles as stop signs. They see them as speed bumps. They don't interpret difficulty as a message to quit. They interpret it as a test of their commitment. When the pressure increases, when the heat gets turned up, when the struggle intensifies, champions don't retreat. They don't look for the easy way out. They get more aggressive. They increase their work ethic. They double down on their commitment. They understand something that quitters will never understand. Obstacles are not there to stop you. They're there to show you what you're made of. They're there to separate the serious from the casual. They're there to weed out the people who say they want success from the people who are actually willing to pay the price for it. Right now, you're probably thinking about all the reasons your situation is different. You're probably listing in your mind all the unique challenges you face, all the specific obstacles in your path that make your journey harder than everyone else's. But that's exactly the thinking that keeps you stuck. That's exactly the mindset that guarantees you'll quit. Because as long as you believe your obstacles are special, as long as you think your challenges are unique, you give yourself permission to surrender. You give yourself an out. You create a justified reason to quit. But your obstacles aren't special. Your challenges aren't unique. Every single person who achieved what you're trying to achieve faced similar difficulties. They just didn't use those difficulties as excuses. They used them as motivation. The entrepreneur you admire who built a massive company, they faced rejection from investors. They dealt with products that failed. They experienced months where they couldn't make payroll. They encountered competitors who tried to destroy them. The athlete you worship who became a champion. They dealt with injuries that should have ended their career. They faced coaches who told them they weren't good enough. They experienced losses that crushed their confidence. They endured years of training with no recognition and no reward. The only difference, the only thing that separates the people who make it from the people who don't, is their refusal to let obstacles dictate their decisions. When a quitter faces an obstacle, they see it as a reason to stop. When a champion faces an obstacle, they see it as a reason to keep going. When a loser encounters failure, they interpret it as proof they can't succeed. When a winner encounters failure, they interpret it as proof they're getting closer to success. It's the same obstacle. It's the same failure. The difference is entirely in the interpretation, entirely in the response, entirely in the decision about what that obstacle means. You're facing obstacles right now. That's not a sign you should quit. That's a sign you're on the right path. Easy goals don't require obstacles. Mediocre achievements don't require struggle. If what you're pursuing was easy, it wouldn't be valuable. The fact that it's hard, the fact that you're facing resistance, the fact that obstacles keep appearing, that's proof that what you're building is significant. The universe only tests those who are attempting something meaningful. The universe is not a charity. It's not a welfare system. It doesn't hand out success to people who hope and wish and dream. It doesn't reward your potential. It doesn't care about your good intentions. It doesn't give participation trophies for showing up. The universe has one singular test that it applies to every human being without exception, and it's the only test that actually matters in determining whether you'll achieve your goals or spend your life wondering what could have been. That test is simple, brutal, and completely indifferent to your feelings. Will you keep going when everything is telling you to stop? Right now, at this exact moment, the universe is watching you. It's measuring you. It's evaluating whether you're serious about what you claim to want. And it's not listening to your words. It's not impressed by your plans. It's not moved by your promises. The universe only observes your actions when the conditions are terrible, when the pressure is unbearable, when continuing seems impossible. That's when it's taking notes. That's when it decides whether you're worthy of success or whether you're just another person who talks big but quits when reality demands payment. Every single day, people with more talent than you are quitting. People with better resources than you are giving up. People with more advantages, more connections, more intelligence, they're all surrendering right now. They're folding under pressure. They're choosing comfort over conquest. They're deciding that the struggle isn't worth it, and the universe watches them quit, notes their surrender, and moves on. It doesn't try to convince them to stay. It doesn't beg them to continue. It simply acknowledges that they weren't serious, that they didn't really want it, that they were just playing games. And then it waits for the next person, the next warrior, the next champion who refuses to break. Here's what you need to understand with absolute clarity. Success is not allocated based on fairness. It's not distributed according to who deserves it most. It's not given to the people with the best backstory or the most compelling reason. The universe doesn't care about your circumstances. It doesn't care that you came from nothing. It doesn't care that you've struggled. It doesn't care that life has been unfair to you. The only thing the universe cares about, the only currency it accepts, the only qualification it demands is this: are you relentless? Will you continue when continuing seems impossible? Will you fight when every logical person would surrender? This is why talent doesn't guarantee success. This is why intelligence doesn't ensure achievement. This is why privilege doesn't automatically create results. Because all of those things mean nothing if you quit. The universe has seen millions of talented people give up. It's watched countless intelligent individuals surrender. It's observed privileged people with every advantage fold under pressure. And it rewards none of them. It saves its greatest prizes for the people who refuse to break, regardless of how much talent they have, regardless of how smart they are, regardless of where they started. You want to know who the universe rewards. It rewards the person who gets knocked down 7 times and stands up 8. It rewards the person who fails publicly, gets humiliated, loses everything, and still shows up the next day ready to try again. It rewards the person who works in silence for years with no recognition, no applause, no evidence that it's working, but who keeps executing anyway because they made a decision about who they are and they refuse to negotiate with that decision. The universe bends to those people. It has no choice, because those people have proven through their actions that they will not stop until they get what they want. Most people never learn this lesson. They think success comes from having the right strategy, the perfect plan, the ideal circumstances. So they spend their lives waiting for conditions to be perfect, waiting for everything to align, waiting for the universe to give them a sign that now is the right time. But that sign never comes. Those perfect conditions never materialize. And while they're waiting, while they're planning, while they're hoping for an easier path, someone else with half their talent is grinding, executing, failing, learning, and refusing to quit. And that person, not the one with potential, not the one with the perfect plan, but the one who refuses to surrender, that's who the universe rewards. Right now, you have a choice. You can be the person with potential who quits, or you can be the person with persistence who wins. You can be the talented individual who surrenders, or you can be the relentless warrior who conquers. The universe is watching. It's measuring. It's waiting to see which one you choose. And here's the most important part. It's not measuring you on your best day. It's not evaluating you when you're motivated, when things are going well, when success feels close. It's measuring you right now, in this moment, when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when quitting would be so easy. This is the test. This is when the universe decides whether you're worthy. Choose wisely. You want to know why you keep quitting. You want to know why you start strong and finish weak. You want to know why you've been chasing the same goals for years without achieving them. It's because you're leaving yourself escape routes. You're keeping backup plans. You're maintaining safety nets. And every time you do that, every time you give yourself the option to quit, you guarantee that eventually you will. Because when things get hard, when the pressure intensifies, when the pain becomes unbearable, your brain will automatically reach for that exit you've been keeping in your back pocket. You'll use that backup plan. You'll fall into that safety net, and you'll convince yourself it was the smart thing to do, the reasonable decision, the logical choice. But all you've really done is quit, again, because you made quitting possible. There's a story about ancient warriors who would land on enemy shores and immediately burn their own boats. They destroyed their only means of retreat. They eliminated the possibility of escape. And in doing so, they sent a clear message to their own minds: we either win or we die here. There is no plan B. There is no going back. There is only forward, only victory, only conquest. And you know what happened? Those warriors fought with an intensity that their enemies couldn't match. They won battles they had no business winning. They achieved victories that seemed impossible, not because they were more skilled, not because they had better weapons, but because they removed the option to retreat. They made surrender impossible. They burned their boats. Right now, you need to ask yourself a brutally honest question. What boats are you keeping? What escape routes are you maintaining? What backup plans are you holding onto that make quitting feel safe? Maybe you're building a business, but you're keeping your job just in case. Maybe you're training for a goal, but you're already thinking about what you'll do if it doesn't work out. Maybe you're pursuing your dream, but you're simultaneously preparing justifications for why it's okay to quit. Every one of those safety nets, every one of those backup plans, every one of those escape routes is a vote of no confidence in yourself. It's your subconscious mind preparing for failure. It's your brain building the infrastructure for surrender. Champions don't operate like that. Winners don't keep exit strategies. Legends don't maintain backup plans. When they commit to something, they commit fully. They go all in. They burn the boats. They make their success mandatory and their failure impossible. Not because they're reckless, not because they're stupid, but because they understand something fundamental about human psychology. You will always take the path of least resistance. If quitting is an option, eventually you'll choose it. If surrender is available, eventually you'll take it. The only way to guarantee you won't quit is to make quitting impossible. This terrifies most people. The idea of committing so fully, of going all in, of eliminating the safety net. It feels dangerous. It feels irresponsible. It feels like you're setting yourself up for catastrophic failure. But here's what those people don't understand. Keeping the safety net is what guarantees failure. Maintaining the backup plan is what ensures you'll quit. Because as long as you have that option, as long as you can retreat, your brain will always be calculating when it's time to use it. You'll never give everything you have. You'll never push to your absolute limit. You'll never discover what you're truly capable of because you'll always be holding something back, always keeping something in reserve, always preparing for the possibility of retreat. Look at your life right now and identify every backup plan you're maintaining, every escape route you're keeping open, every safety net you're holding onto just in case, and then destroy them. Burn your boats. Make quitting so painful, so difficult, so impossible that continuing becomes your only option. Tell everyone what you're doing so that quitting means public humiliation. Invest so much money that quitting means financial disaster. Commit so publicly that surrender means losing your reputation. Make the cost of quitting higher than the cost of continuing, and you'll never quit. Most people won't do this. Most people will read these words and think it sounds extreme, think it sounds risky, think it sounds like bad advice. And those people will continue to start things they don't finish. They'll continue to pursue goals they abandon. They'll continue to have potential they never realize because they'll always keep their safety nets, their backup plans, their escape routes. And when things get hard, they'll use them. They'll quit. They'll surrender. And they'll spend the rest of their lives wondering what could have been if they had just committed fully. But you're different. You're not reading this to feel motivated for 5 minutes and then go back to your comfortable life. You're reading this because somewhere deep inside you know you're meant for more. You know you're capable of extraordinary things, and you're finally ready to do what it takes. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to identify your biggest goal, the one that scares you, the one that matters most, and you're going to burn every boat that makes quitting possible. You're going to eliminate every escape route. You're going to destroy every backup plan, and you're going to make your success inevitable by making surrender impossible. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take whatever challenge you're facing right now, whatever obstacle is making you want to quit, and you're going to decide that surrender is not an option. You're going to burn the boats. You're going to eliminate the escape routes. You're going to commit so fully to your goal that the only way out is through. And then you're going to fight. You're going to work. You're going to push. You're going to execute relentlessly until you achieve what you set out to achieve. Not because it's easy. Not because you feel motivated, but because you decided that you will never surrender. And when you make that decision with absolute conviction, when you remove quitting as an option, you become unstoppable. The universe has no choice but to give you what you want because you've proven that you will not stop until you get it. Winners never quit. Champions never surrender. And today, you join their ranks. Now go, execute, dominate, and never ever surrender.